Can't Escape the Magic by Art Fox. Chapter 19. Sinbad absently flicked some blood off his hands as he rose from the darkened hole. Late afternoon sun filtered through the thinly thatched roof above him. Jafar and Masrur followed quietly behind him, their robes also stained with venomous blood. "He is still breathing," Masrur commented, his red eyes cast disdainfully down the dark cavern. "Perhaps, but we have to meet with the kids for dinner, so we better leave now if we want to make it in time," Sinbad replied. "Are we leaving him to starve on the ground, Sin?" Jafar nodded in agreement as he said that. He tended to favor harsher punishments more than the other generals. "No." Sin shook his head. He could still remember Madera doing that to slaves that had disappointed her. Throwing sickly or rebellious slaves into a darkened pit in the warehouse amused her to no end. And the other slaves would have to work around the sounds of their pleading and death cries for days before they succumbed. It was a nightmarish punishment that Sinbad was loath to remember, and judging by Masrur's narrowed eyes, he did as well. Sinbad would not stoop to that woman's level. He wouldn't allow himself to. Sinbad stripped the bloody robe off him and dropped it down the hole, gesturing for Masrur and Jafar to do the same. "Then what will you do to him, in the end?" Masrur tilted his head to the side, very much like an overludged bird. "He could die of blood loss any moment now," Sinbad noted casually. "But you don't want to make sure?" Jafar followed Sinbad outside, with Masrur at his elbow. "Yes." Sinbad crouched at the corner of the dilapidated hut. He stood up and faced them. A thin, grey plume of smoke rose behind him. The sun-baked hut caught quickly. As the men left, a thick column of smoke engulfed the hut. "Will that kill him?" Masrur questioned. "The fire won't," Sinbad acknowledged, "but the smoke and heat will." As the outskirts of Balbadd came into view, Sinbad stopped in the middle of the road. Masrur and Jafar drew a halt behind him. "Sin?" Jafar questioned, concerned. Sinbad dragged a hand over his face and blew out a huff. "Yeah, just give me a minute." He leaned against a nearby palm tree lining the path and shielded his face with a hand. Jafar's expression softened. "Take your time." The two vassals faced away and politely ignored Sinbad's trembling shoulders as he struggled to contain himself. After a long silence, Jafar turned to his king. "Sin, are you all right?" Yeah, I'm fine. It's just..." He choked, his face damp and red, composure lost. "My son. Fatima hurt him, Jafar, because of me." Sinbad clenched his jaw so tight Jafar worried his teeth would crack under the strain. No, Sinbad, you hurt him. He didn't know sin was yours. How could he? It wasn't your fault." "But it was!" Sinbad roared in his face. Jafar took a hasty step back, wary in the face of so much anger, wrath, pure, furious, earth-shattering wrath transformed Sinbad's face into a monstrous mask. "Sinna has my hair, my face. He's even named after me, Jafar. Fatima chose him because he's so like me. I ruined Fatima's life, even if I didn't intend to. I still drove him to it. Drove him to Sinna. My son. My son." Sinbad fell against the tree, his body shaking with fury and pain. "What could I do? How can I ever look Sinna in the eye after this? After knowing this? How can I be his father after this, Jafar? How?" He looked up at his advisor. But it was Masrur who answered him. "Because you are his father." "What?" "He doesn't have another. You are his father. You must be there. Even if he hurts now, even if you hurt now, it won't always. And you can be there for him when it doesn't hurt anymore. That's how you can be his father." It was an oddly emotional point of view from Masrur. Sinbad was moved. The king nodded and pushed himself off the tree. With a swipe, he brushed most of the wetness off his face and gave them a smile. It was frail and false, but it was still a smile. "Okay, you're right. Let's go then." "Very well, my king." Jafar nodded. And as the men grew nearer to the capital city, Jafar was pleased to see Sinbad's smile grow a little more real with each step closer to his son. As they entered Balbadd, the three men wandered around the market. Sinbad would pause every now and then to peruse the stalls and their goods. He picked up a small set of wooden toy soldiers dressed as Syndrian soldiers, of course, for Nacht and Cinna, a condensed map of the world for Aladdin, and a brightly painted hair comb for Morgiana. Gifts for the kids? Jafar smiled. He knew that Sinbad could scarcely contain himself from spoiling others with material goods. It was just in his nature. Of course, Balbadd has always had the most abundant market goods. His smile was bright, even if his eyes were still watery. Most would attribute that to the dusty market or the wind carrying sand. Masrur said nothing as they made their way closer to the hotel, only idly plucking a wooden ball to add to the presents. Jafar tossed a child's beginning reading scroll in the pile of purchases before he twisted into another vein of the crowd. You go ahead. I'm going to look around. Sinbad managed to call out a "Have fun!" before Jafar was swallowed by the throng of people. Sinbad and Masrur felt the tension ease out of their shoulders as the hotel came into view. The lobby was as lavish as always. Sinbad noticed some of the patrons looked a bit nervous. He could tell they had come to stay in the hotel only to avoid the potential danger their homes posed. Masrur followed behind Sinbad, quietly holding most of the packages, while they made their way to their rooms. The pair stopped at Aladdin and Morgiana's room first. Morgiana answered and let them in with a soft, "Hello." "Hello, Morgiana. How was lunch?" Sinbad smiled. "It was good. Thank you for the money for, lunch." She blushed, not used to such kindness. Sinbad beamed down at her. She was a sweet girl. Not his type, but still, very adorable. Like a lioness cub, possessing the claws and teeth of a wild beast, but still small and fluffy enough to be considered harmless. But Morgiana was a fine young woman nonetheless. Sinbad gave a subtle glance over to Masrur. Perhaps he should give his quiet friend a push. Morgiana was a bit young, but Masrur would make her a fine husband. He would bring it up later. Sinbad looked around the room. He noticed Aladdin still staring despondently out the window. His former friend really did a number on him, Sinbad thought. Turning from the window, he saw Nacht and Cinna both curled up on the furthest bed, not napping, but just resting quietly. Both of their eyes were half-lidded. Nacht was sleepily twisting Cinna's hair around his fingers. Cinna would mumble quiet nonsense every few moments. Sinbad smiled and gestured towards the small boys. "Were they any trouble?" he asked quietly. No, they were fine," Morgiana reported just as softly. She so very easily relented to his authority. Sinbad guessed that she was a former slave not too long ago, too, like the boys. A part of him felt bad for taking advantage of her like this, a part that was much larger than before, entirely because of Cinna. It was a fault in his character. He knew it, but he twisted that fault to his advantage. He manipulated people, twisted their desires until they merged with his own. It was something he was working to curtail, no matter how well it served him in the past. "We picked up a few things for you all at the market." Sinbad settled himself on a nearby chair. Masrur laid the wrapped packages on Aladdin's empty bed. "We can wait till the boys wake up if you want." Sinbad made sure that Morgiana knew that she had a choice. He would let her make her own decisions. It came part and parcel with freedom, after all. That's fine. They should be up soon. And, Aladdin," she turned to her blue-haired friend. Aladdin watched the people below idly. He looked content, but for the sadness evident in his eyes. "Aladdin?" Sinbad drew the Magi's eye. "We picked you up a map from the market. You said you wanted to explore the world, right?" The Magi beamed up at him. "Oh, yes! Thank you, Mr. Sin." Aladdin gratefully took the map Sinbad handed him. The king smiled and watched the boy inspect his new gift. Then he turned to Morgiana. She was watching Aladdin and his new toy with gentle eyes. "I'm Morgiana." Sinbad smiled up at her. "This comb would suit you, I think." Morgiana looked odd. She carefully took the finely painted comb out of Sinbad's hands, as if it were made of fine crystal. Sinbad thought that it could possibly be the first gift she had ever been given. That was a sad little thought. Sinbad turned and ran a gentle hand over his son's brow, rousing him. Cinna's voice rose from the soft bedding. "Who's it?" "It's just me and Masrur, Cinna. Good evening. How was lunch?" Sinbad leaned further over to the other bed to brush his hair back. "Yawn. It was fine. Where were you guys?" Cinna sleepily sat up and poked Nacht's cheek until he also rose out of bed. We had an important meeting about the new slave trade surrounding Balbadd. The country is a mess because of the fog tube. We were seeing what could be done about the bands of slavers circling the outer districts. Sinbad knew that in a lie, even the slightest twinge of truth would aid in the appearance of honesty. He was well versed in half-truths. The fact that it made Morgiana look at him, and more importantly, Masrur, with a respectful shine in her eye notwithstanding, Cinna accepted his answer with a small, "Okay." Noct slid off the bed and toddled over to Masrur. He raised his arms up in a silent plea to be lifted. The Finalese man relented with a small, rare smile. Those two have certainly bonded well, Sinbad thought, a pleasant smile creeping over him. He watched as Masrur dug in the pile on the bed to reveal the small ball he had chosen. He presented the toy to the boy in his arms. "Here." Noct's eyes were wide and filled with tears, a smile on his face. "Is that for me?" "Yes." Masrur's eyes were gentle. "Wow, thanks, Mr. Masrur. I love it." Noct hugged the wooden toy to his chest like a stuffed animal. Sinbad turned to face his son and felt a flutter of nervousness as he passed to Cinna his own gift. "What are these?" his son asked, thin eyebrows furrowing. "They are toy soldiers. I thought you could use them to plan out more of your battle strategy, like your plan for the fog troop. It was really good." "Thank you." Cinna's face was flushed, and he couldn't look Sinbad in the eye. The king wanted to go at how cute his young progeny was, but he resisted. He didn't think Cinna would forgive him for it. "They aren't dressed like the Balbadd soldiers," Cinna noted as he began arranging a line of them on the bed. "No, in fact they are wearing Sindrian uniforms. It's pretty rare to find such detailed work in a foreign market." Sinbad smiled, glad to see his son enjoying his gift. "Sindria? That's where you live." Cinna snuck a peek at him. "Yes, and you and Noct, Aladdin and Morgiana can come back to Sindria with us if you want." Sinbad knew that he had to give his son the illusion of choice. As a slave, Cinna never had a choice. Sinbad knew that demanding him to come along to Sindria would not help with the relationship he was trying to forge with his son. "But Miss Morgiana wants to go to the Dark Continent, right?" Noct twisted in Masrur's arms to look down at the Finalese girl. She blushed and mumbled, "Yeah." "Of course, and I would never stop her from going where either she or you want to explore. Like I said when we first met, adventures are great, but it's still nice to have somewhere to go home to. Sindria can be like that for you. A home, if you want." Sinbad's smile was truly kind now. His heart fluttered anxiously. He needed his son to accept his offer. "A home. That sounds nice." Cinna nibbled on his lower lip. "Right, Noct?" He turned his eyes on his friend. "Yeah, a home. This sounds great." The Shand boy grinned over Masrur's shoulder. "Okay then, once all this business is done in Balbadd, we can go to Sindria. That sound good?" "Yeah, okay, Sindria. That sounds good." Cinna gave Sinbad a genuine smile. A smile that made Sinbad feel bright. The sight of his smiling son was better than any dungeon treasure room he had ever been in. "But for now, let's have some dinner. Does anyone have any suggestions?" Sinbad smiled. Everyone was happy. Even Aladdin was moved out of his funk enough to smile. "How about seafood?" Cinna smiled innocently, ignoring the squeak Noct let out in anger. "Why don't we order something from the hotel menu? That way we don't have to worry about Jafar being late. We can have it our inn." Sinbad smiled, already reaching to the tasseled rope against the wall. Okay. Later that evening, Sinbad, Masrur, and Jafar gathered in their hotel living room. "We have a crisis on our hands," Jafar reported. "The economy in this country is in chaos." He, Masrur, and Sinbad didn't have to worry about keeping their voices down. Both Cinna and Noct fell asleep in Aladdin and Morgiana's room, and they didn't have the heart to move them. Jafar waved a stack of crumpled paper bills around. "This is one of the main causes for it." "The new cow bills?" Sinbad questioned, furrowing his brow in confusion. "Yes. Lately, the Coat Empire has been using the military to strong-arming the smaller neighboring nations into trading in co-bills. They're trying to make everyone trade in co-bills." "But that's not working so well in Balbadd, is it?" Sinbad concluded. "It's not working well anywhere but the Coat Empire," Jafar exclaimed. The constant expansion means that they are constantly reprinting new bills without validating their worth, essentially making Co bills worth less than nothing outside of Co. It's an inflation, Sinbad concluded, and a tremendous disaster waiting to happen. Whoever is running the finances of that country is an idiot, Jafar scowled. And there's more. King Ahmad is at the Co-Empire's beck and call. What's more is he's engaged to marry a Co-Empire princess. He's getting married? I don't believe it. Why hasn't he said anything to me yet? Sinbad rubbed his chin, upset that Rashid's eldest would snub him like that. That arrogant little brat, he thought. There is also the matter of the folk troop. We need to contact Sindria and work out the best possible plan of action, Jafar said with a minor tone of pleading. He was praying that his king could see reason in discourse. Yes, you're right. I don't have mental vessels anymore. By the way, where was Aladdin? Sinbad stretched against the couch. He's heartbroken, Jafar noted amusedly. Right now he's resting in his room. He may be a Margi, but he's still a little boy.